My button never works. Here we go. God damn it. I swear to God, if I could work the goddamn buttons, this podcast would really go. It would sing, baby. It would sing. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Welcome to the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim. That's my buddy Rhino over there, right across from me, sipping some eggnog. I've got my Coke Zero. Salute. Cheers. Good to have you here, Rhino.
It's good to be here. I didn't know if we'd be doing this sans Zach tonight, but here we are.
The show's got to go on. Zach is currently singing Luck Be a Lady at a craps table right now, and just hoping not to go snake eyes here. He's got a big role coming. So our luck to Zach here this evening out in the land of lost wages, as my parents used to call it.
Yeah, we're happy for him.
Yeah, happy for him. I kind of want to go to Vegas.
I'm going in May.
The gal is taking a big trip to Orlando, leaving Wednesday morning with the gals, with the girls. It's going to be a great time. Doing the Christmas at Disney and Universal bit. Might be a good time for her. I'm certainly looking out, but I'll be here. I'll just be here doing podcasts and Bachelor stuff all week.
So Lauren's going in 2026. There's a plan for her and her friend Sarah to go out to Disney, and I will be using that as an excuse to spend significantly less money and go to Columbus, Ohio to see a football game. So
I root for it. Good luck to you. We'll talk. We're not going to get into Columbus, Ohio too much tonight. College football playoffs. We'll have a full college football pod at some point, you and I, and Zach probably as well, because we had a lot to break down there. But let's do football, you and I, because Zach's not here tonight, but you and I can kick some football around. We'll still do an eliminator. We will still do an eliminator tonight. We will still do our power rankings, but we will keep the pod a little truncated because without Zach, I feel like Dad Talk is incomplete. It's just you and me rambling. So we save Dad Talk for when we have you and Zach, because I feel like both of you add to that piece. So we'll keep it to football, about 40 to 45 minutes here tonight. And we certainly are glad you're with us again for another week as we wind the season down, end of the fantasy football regular season. Good luck to everybody who's got playoffs coming up in any smart league that doesn't play a week 18. Rhino, football yesterday. I got a couple of notes, and we'll see what you think about these. First note, I think Josh Allen secured the MVP yesterday. That was probably like a mythic all-world performance, even in a loss. He is a different guy, but he needs more weapons, yeah?
Yeah, I think that they're really missing they're missing Stephon Diggs in that he was kind of a dynamic weapon for them. I don't think they miss the attitude stuff. But you know, I do think that they miss him as a weapon. They need someone. I think that they might be a good destination for someone like T. Higgins in the offseason if he can't come to a deal with Cincinnati, or even a trade destination. But they need somebody. They need a true number one wide receiver. They don't really have one right now.
Yeah, Cooper was nice, and I think that was that Zakir. Made some nice catches, made some nice plays for them, and I think is a good player. But I mean, they scored a lot of freaking points. I mean, it's not like they didn't move the ball or couldn't do anything. But they got behind too quickly, and Allen had to try to put on the superhero cape and try to make it work, and it didn't. Nearly did. And Stafford played his ass off. Stafford played a really good game too, which I think kind of is lost in this a little bit, but I thought that was a hell of a football game yesterday.
Part of that too is the defense for Buffalo just didn't look very good.
Yeah, they couldn't stop anybody.
And I think that there was I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Rich Eisen on his show this morning had a question. Is it overreacting to say that Josh Allen is superhuman, but the Bills don't have the defense to win at Arrowhead?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know, because I don't know if the Chiefs have the offense to blow anybody out.
Yeah,
right. So maybe they don't need the great defense maybe in a place like Arrowhead. But when you go up against a team like the Rams, who have to when they're healthy. Like, this is the healthiest the Rams have been in years, right? Where they actually have both wide receivers, they have the starting running back, they have all the pieces offensively, and the quarterback is upright. Like, they rarely have all of the parts together, but what we saw yesterday was when they have all the parts together, they're really freaking good.
Yeah, this might be the lucky year for the rest of the league that I don't know if they're too far behind to make it into the playoffs at this point. Obviously, they're not out of it. But obviously they don't, I don't think they control their own destiny yet.
I think they need a little help. Seattle keeps winning, and that's what hurts them.
Yeah, so we might get lucky and miss the Rams in the playoffs.
Yeah, you don't want those guys. I'm telling you, that's not a round one you want. You do not want to play the Rams.
Puka Nacua is a legit wide receiver.
Yes.
Cooper Kupp has found his niche again after being hurt for a couple of years. They're a scary team. They're good.
Yeah, I like that. Like I said, it was a hell of a game yesterday. I mean, it was super fun. So I really like what Allen, I think, is the MVP of the league. I think that's a 4-win outfit without him, 4 or 5-win outfit. But we could say the same thing about Mahomes, which brings me to a topic number 2 for you tonight, Ryan. Zach yelled at us on the text chain yesterday from Vegas. Put some respect on their names. Doesn't matter how they win, and he's right. They do just win, and all they do is win. All they do is win. And we talked about this.
Else.
That's right. We talked about this last night when we were talking about, we're going to do a full podcast on who's a dog and who's a killer. But we agree, you and I, Patrick Mahomes is the one killer in the NFL right now. The Grim Reaper, the Undertaker. Just like when he is in the ring, it's over.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. I will say this. I don't think their success right now is sustainable. They're going to run into a team that can outscore them. And I mean, they kind of did in Buffalo, right? I mean, they lost that game for a reason. They're beating everybody else, but their point differential is 0. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. It's literally at 0. They are even on points through the year.
It makes you think that they need to lose a game before the playoffs. Like, the pressure release valve needs to be there. They need a chance to kind of like, hey, all right, we gotta figure it out. Like, they lost to the Raiders on Christmas last year, and it felt like that was the thing that kind of kickstarted them and got them going the other direction.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true, but I just think they just don't have the talent to compete offensively right now. DeAndre Hopkins seemed like a nice idea, but he seems like he might be kind of washed.
He doesn't feel like the difference maker. You're right.
Yeah, Travis Kelce has lost a step, and I don't think I'm breaking any news by saying that. He doesn't look like the same player he did 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's still better than Kyle Pitts, but so is like 3/4 of the league.
Yeah, well, Kyle Pitts is a bum. We were all wrong on that one. He looked like he was going to be a freak, and Brock Bowers is who we thought Kyle Pitts would be.
Correct.
I mean, there's just...
And Noah Gray looks good, but it's just like you can't... Noah Gray's not a number 1 tight end right now. Like, you can't throw him the ball 10 times.
They are missing the explosive piece of that offense that made them so good for the last, 6 years.
Yeah, and they used to just kind of, besides Tyreek Hill, they would, it'd be Rashee Rice, or it would be, Mecole Hardman, who just went to IR. It would be a number of guys. And now you look at him and you're like, Xavier Worthy's supposed to be the game breaker? I just haven't seen it yet.
But one, he's a rookie.
True. Right? I'm not ready to say it's his fault and that he's done.
I'm not saying that either. I'm saying that that's going to factor in. And you also have the other teams that know that he's the difference maker, that know that he's the explosive guy, and they have no one else. So you don't have to cover anybody.
Yeah.
Right? When Tyreek Hill was on the team, you had Travis Kelce, who hadn't lost a step yet, when he was kind of in his prime and was playing really well. And beyond that, you have, you had that kind of rotating litany of wide receivers that were fast enough to make it everybody's problem. And I think that's what they're missing. They desperately need someone to take the top off the defense opposite Xavier Worthy, so that he's not taking double and triple coverage every time he goes out for a route because they know that he can break the game with his speed.
It's kind of like they hang around, and then they just sort of like look at Mahomes and say, all right, close the deal for us, will you please? And Mahomes does, because Mahomes is a killer, right? He just dashes your hopes and dreams and all that stuff, and he just does. It's just what he does. But I just think that is a dangerous formula down the road. But in fairness, winning is winning in this league, and they've done a lot of it.
Well, and I agree for sure. To me, it reads like like I said, I don't think it's sustainable in the NFL, because I don't think that in the modern NFL, there's too many explosive offenses that can beat even the best defenses. However, it reads to me like those sort of old style baseball teams that play, good enough offense to get 2-3 runs on the board, and you're not going to score any. Their defense is elite. You'll hang around for a little bit. Maybe you'll get one run and feel some hope. And then that closer comes in, you hear his music, and you know it's over.
Yeah.
Right. Mariano Rivera steps out of the bullpen, the game's over. And it's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes, right? It's if the game's close, if he's got a shot to go win it, you just don't doubt. There's just no doubt he's going to win that game for you. And I don't know. There's just nobody else in the league that can do that right now.
I'm starting to think like Mahomes might be 1980s Hulk Hogan, right? Where he gets beat up for the entire match, but then he hulks up. It's 3 punches, it's a boot and a leg drop, and the match is over. And you're just like, well, how the hell did he do that? He was just getting his ass whipped by Kamala for 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's boot and a leg drop, and the match is over.
Yeah, it's just, it feels close, right? He's not throwing 3 punches. I'm trying to think of an equivalent here, to another sport, but there really isn't one, right? There that we can try to throw out all these analogies that we haven't seen anything like this before.
We haven't.
He's Thanos. He's inevitable, and
he's like, doesn't he remind you of like Tom Brady, like post Moss? Pre Edelman, Julie, and all that's where he was throwing to Danny Amendola, and it was just like smoke and mirrors, and it was like Brady just being a magician, and they won 13 games, but then got knocked out in the playoffs, and that's when they're like, all right, we got to stop screwing around here. Gronk, come in here, please. You enter the chat, please. Let's get you in here. Let's get a couple of these weapons in here, and all of a sudden they went out and won like 2-3 more Super Bowls.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that here soon with them. It's hard to win 3 in a row, and it feels like they're kind of at the end of this window. Yep. But it's not going to be, as long as he's on the team, it's not going to be hard for them to open another window.
Certainly not.
And I think a bigger issue for them is they just don't have a lot of protection. They're really beat up on the offensive line.
Yeah, terribly.
And they just don't have the health or the play. Like Juwan Taylor
he's terrible.
He's a liability. And when you have the face of the NFL back there, you really don't want a liability at left tackle.
Correct.
So I think for me, it'll come around again for the Chiefs. I don't think this year is going to be it again. But I do think that they're inevitable, and you can't count them out. And man, that's frustrating because I'd like to.
I like the Thanos analogy that he is that Mahomes is Thanos. That's might be the way to look at it. I love that.
It's a 3-point game. The portal opens. He steps onto the field, and you just hear that music. Right.
This is why we text last night. I said Mahomes is a killer, and now he has the ball with 2 minutes to go, and it was 3rd and 7. And you said it to me in the text. There's no way he doesn't get this 3rd down, right? And I'm like, yep, because the guy's a freaking killer.
Yeah,
that's how he does it.
There's a level of performance where you don't simply believe he's going to get it. You don't hope he's going to get it. You expect that he's going to get it. And I think when hope becomes expectation in sports, that's how you know you've crossed the Rubicon of greatness. And I really think that he is achieving at a level that we haven't seen in a long time. I don't think even Brady did it to this level. That there were questions of like when you're down when you're down, 3 points in the Super Bowl to the Giants with 30 seconds to go, you're just going to heave 3 deep. Like, you hope you're going to get one of those.
Yep.
Right? In 2007. You're the best offense of all time. You hope you're going to get one. With Mahomes, I would have no doubt that they would throw 3 passes, 25 yards a pop. He'd make some magic happen. They'd get into field goal range. Somehow the clock would stop, and they would kick the field goal to tie the game. I expect that that's what's going to happen with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, they had a chance. If that doinks the other way, then maybe the mystique gets exposed for a second. But it's Mahomes' mystique. It willed right in. It doinked off and went right in.
Speaking of doink, we had a ball that just bounced off of CeeDee Lamb's chest and into the arms of a defender. Pooper flushes back.
If it was a spear, it'd have killed him. Anyway,
Pooper flushes back.
Another topic. Most impressive team yesterday. Let's just say it. It was the Minnesota Vikings. They were the most impressive team yesterday. Offensively, Darnold was brilliant. I think this was his best game as a professional. I think it was, he got both Addison and Jefferson involved, which is unbelievable that Raheem Morris could let that happen. And Cousins he threw for 300 some yards, but I can't imagine a more pedestrian 300-yard game in the history of football. No touchdowns, 2 picks. In his last 4 games, he's thrown, 6, 7 picks, no touchdowns. That team is in deep, deep trouble. But your thoughts on the game yesterday?
Yeah. I think that what we saw finally was this is what this offense can look like when everything is clicking. And, it is – you cannot cover both of them. And now that you've added a legit running game into this offense that you didn't have last year, you kind of had it 2 years ago, but you didn't really have it 2 years ago. You add the running game in, you bring TJ Hawkinson in, who you have to account for. And he didn't have a catch in the first half, but you saw what happened when they started to lock up on Addison. They started going to Hawkinson for some chunk plays underneath. And he got 70, 80 yards on 3 or 4 drives because there's always somebody that's going to be there. There's always somebody that's going to be able to make a difference on this team if you're doing things the right way.
Correct.
And I think that the difference between this team and the teams with Cousins are if Cousins got the kind of pressure that Darnold got yesterday, and Atlanta was able to get to the quarterback yesterday for maybe the first time all season. But the difference between Darnold and Cousins is Darnold steps up into the pocket and he doesn't do the one of 2 things that Cousins did, which is he's either going to check it down or he's going to run for 5 yards. Darnold will run, but his eyes are downfield, right? How many times did he just chuck it deep knowing, fuck it, Addison's down there somewhere, right? Jefferson's down there somewhere. It's basically a punt. It's 3rd and 7, right? I'm just going to heave this thing and we're going to hope that one of our guys gets it. And you trust the talent that you have, these 2 very good first-round pick wide receivers.
Addison has really turned into a top guy. Like, he's really becoming a very good wide receiver.
Jordan Addison could be the best wide receiver on about 25
The Patriots would take
teams.
him tomorrow. The Patriots would take him tomorrow.
About 25 different teams, he would be the best wide receiver on their roster.
Correct.
And the Vikings have 2 of them. It just so happens he's the wide receiver 2 because the other guy's the best wide receiver in the league. And
yeah, he's close, but he's not. Yeah, he's up there. He's top 2-3 guy.
He's the best wide receiver in the league.
Nah, there's other guys that are pretty good. Jamar Chase, pretty good.
Jamar Chase does not see the level of double and triple coverage that Justin Jefferson does. And yesterday we saw when they had to roll to Addison because he was having a day.
Yeah. And that's the guy who's really benefited. Addison's having all kinds of free run, and nobody can double him.
I should know because he put up 40 against me in fantasy this week. But but Justin Jefferson, as soon as they released coverage, what did you see? Started seeing him get open. You started seeing him catch touchdowns. You started to see him make a difference again because now there's 2-3 other guys in this offense that you have to worry about. You have to worry about the running game. Aaron Jones will burn you. he has the speed and the vision to be able to cut you up to cut you up in the running game. Darnold can throw any ball in this offense. And I don't know that we've seen a development from a guy who was a bust, a capital B bust, like Sam Darnold, kind of blossom into this since. I mean, would you consider Rich Gannon a bust? I don't think I would, but that's the comparison I would make.
Gannon wasn't at bust stage yet. When he was in Minnesota, I mean, it didn't work out here, but he was young. We were sort of in between Wade Wilson, and we didn't really know what to do. I mean, I don't think Gannon was ready for the big time because he went to Kansas City. He went to some other teams. Not until he went to Oakland later in his career did he kind of find that gear and get them to a Super Bowl.
That's kind of what I'm talking about with Darnold, though, right? It's very
but
much
I wouldn't call him a bust. I would just say he was a guy who hadn't quite. He wasn't like a first round guy. He wasn't like a 8th pick in the draft kind of guy. I mean, he was a project guy that blossomed and became really good.
And I think the other point to this too is, if you had this offense the way that it played on Sunday, this offense against the Detroit Lions defense in their current state, I know who I'm picking.
Yeah,
and it ain't the Lions. That's a good team, but they're fielding a practice squad on defense right now. Offensively, they can compete.
I wouldn't go quite practice squad, but they're in definitely some trouble as far as they're taking on water to the certain degree of injuries that they have taken, to the point where it's starting to become like you're getting Jamal Adams off the streets and you're trying to patch holes here. And I'll give Aaron Glenn a lot of credit. Like a couple years ago, he was running the worst defense in football. And I think he's coached up a lot of dudes in a short amount of time and made them very productive and has made a good defense. But you are right. There is a point. The Niners are finding that out, right? And the Bengals are finding that out, that there is this point of no return with injuries, right? At some point, you're just too far gone. And I don't know if they're there yet, but it's pretty damn close.
I would argue the Cowboys found that out this year, too. Their defense was supposed to be the strength of their team. You lose the starting quarterback. Now they're 5-7 and they're staring down a top 10 pick. And like, this is a team that was supposed to be good and just got hurt. San Francisco, like you said, a team that was supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, everybody's hurt. And now it feels like the window might be shut because we don't know what we're going to get out of McCaffrey moving forward. We don't know what that defense looks like with the contracts that are expiring.
And Bose hasn't played in a month.
Yeah. And now you have, and you look at Detroit and you say, okay, offensively, you can compete with anybody, obviously. But we know two things are true. One, eventually the injuries are going to catch up to you.
Yep.
In a performance, looking at the performance. And two, eventually Dan Campbell's going to gamble wrong.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if they had to play the Packers again, I mean, I get that they've beaten Green Bay twice, but how can you not think the Packers don't have a chance in a third opportunity? And
look, the Packers are good.
Packers are good.
They're a good team, but they're also kind of fraudulent this year. They're 1-3 against teams with winning records. Minnesota dominated them before they let off the gas after halftime. I mean, they are. Yeah,
but I'm not giving them they let off the gas and let them back in the game. Well, that's bad coaching. That's bad football if you let that happen.
Sure.
Like that shouldn't have been in that spot at that point.
But again, I don't think that happens again. My point is that I just don't think.
So you think they blow them out in US Bank Stadium?
I think it's going to be close to that. I think Minnesota's much better than Green Bay is right now.
I don't know about much better. I think Green Bay is really good. I think their challenge right now is, as I see it, is Love is good. But Love will make 2 or 3 plays a game that are just not what you need, right? Kind of reminded me of Kirk a little bit from a couple years ago with the Vikings, where, gosh, Kirk makes 8 out of 10 throws are freaking fantastic, and they're great. But those 2 throws are deadly. Like, we cannot have those. You know what I mean? And I think that's Love a little bit. But I still think Green Bay is not a team anybody wants in round 1. Like, if Green Bay's got to go to Seattle in round 1 of the playoffs, I don't want to be Seattle. I don't want to play Green Bay. Like, that's not a game I want. Think about Minnesota. What Minnesota's got to go to Tampa Bay? That's my only problem I have with Minnesota is in a normal year, they're going to win the division, right? In a normal year, 11-2, they're going to coast to a division title. They're going to host a playoff game, and they could push for a first-round bye. They're not going to get that this year. They're going to get the 5 seed, and they're going to have to go on the road every week in the playoffs. And if it's outdoors in the cold, like Philly, like we know they're not going to beat Philly in Philly because they never have. And at any time they've had to go to Philly, they've gotten their ass kicked. We've seen it. We know it. And if they have to go to Philly outdoors, that sucks. They would much rather, I think, go to Detroit and play indoors.
Yeah, but I also, I don't know.
I don't want to play Philly, though, either, though. I'm going to be super clear. I don't want to play Philly in a cold game.
See,
Philly's got pieces that I don't want to deal with in a cold weather. A running game that's punishing, like they're
Philly's so hot and cold.
They won like 8 in a row. What's cold? They don't lose. What's cold about them?
Who are they playing? They beat Baltimore.
They just
Congratulations.
beat Baltimore on the road. That's a good team on the road. They just beat them. They beat Green Bay in the worst fucking field in Brazil. The worst field in the history of the world. They went down there and beat them.
But you lose to Atlanta, you lose to Tampa, you lose to Pittsburgh. 2 of those are at home.
That was early in the season, though, in fairness. You do have to kind of disregard, because, listen, if you want to throw those out, Minnesota's lost to Detroit and the Rams. You know, the Rams who ain't going to make the playoffs.
They almost lost to Carolina yesterday.
Carolina's frisky as frick right now. You know it. Aren't they? I mean, don't you got to agree Carolina's played good football for a month.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. But it's Carolina.
That would have been so hot if Carolina would have won that game yesterday.
Yeah, whatever.
My point is I don't want to go to Philly to play Philly. I don't want to.
I don't either. I would rather have the 1 seed, which means you got to beat Detroit.
Yeah, but I would much rather go to Detroit and play. I tell you what, I don't want to go to Seattle, which we have to anyway. We're on the road at Seattle, in 2 weeks? Next week? Yeah, Minnesota and Seattle 2 weeks?
Monday Night Football next week is Minnesota and the Bears, and then it's Seattle. Yeah, I don't want to go to Seattle. I don't want to go to Seattle twice. We've never played well in Seattle. It's just for whatever reason, it just never seems to be our cup of tea up there. Can we talk about this? Why does Minnesota always have to go to Seattle?
Well, in the playoffs, it's how it works. But
no. I mean, every time we play Seattle in Seattle.
There is some sort of mathematical formula to this because it's all about like where you finish in the schedule and how this all. Because the Giants used to have to come here forever. The Giants used to have to play 1 million times here. And we were always like, why do we have to fucking play the Giants every year? Like that sucks.
I know that it's like you play the team that finishes in the same place in their division in your conference.
Yeah.
And I know that's Seattle for us this year. I'm just wondering, why is it always in Seattle? You know what I mean?
I think it just always breaks that way.
That's just so weird.
It is weird that the odds are that we always go there, but
it's like 15 years we've always played Seattle in Seattle.
And it never goes well. I want to be super clear. I can't recall one time where it went well.
You know why? Because Seattle, as we said last week, they've never played a normal football game.
They just don't. Yeah, they play weird games. It's all weird in Seattle. Everybody's all on the weed and Starbucks up there. It's just weird. It's just a weird vibe.
My kind of town.
Yeah, it's your kind of town. You'd like Seattle. You'd be all about it.
I just want to correct the record. I said that Philadelphia had lost to the Steelers. I believe they're going to lose to the Steelers. I did not say that they had lost to the Steelers.
Listen, the Steelers are good. The Steelers are good. I think the Steelers are a legitimate threat to win the Super Bowl. Even with Russ, I still think their defense is just so damn good, especially cold weather. If they get to play outside in cold weather games, I don't know if I love them as much in the domes, but if you get them on a cold weather game, outdoors, I like Pittsburgh a lot. And I think they can win games.
He's corny as hell. You can say what you want about Russell Wilson, but that guy's won a Super Bowl. He's been there. He knows what it takes.
Yeah. And he's had a good year. I don't care anybody. He's played great for them. He has not played like a washed quarterback.
No. I think that they're definitely a threat defensively. I mean, I don't know how Cam Hayward has to be 1,000 years old.
I think he is. He's Methuselah. Yeah.
How is he still playing at this level? He's still getting pressure. He's still playing well against the run. How is he doing this?
I think it's like all about Tomlin. Don't you think? Like it's that junkyard dog.
Has to
Like,
be.
it's just that if anybody just showed up and said, hey, I'm embracing this Pittsburgh mindset thing, it's like Tomlin, and everybody who shows up there and puts the jersey on just sort of like does that.
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of dig it.
I dig it. I dig the vibe. How do you not root for Pittsburgh? How do you not?
It's not the whiny, bitchy vibe of the Dallas Cowboys.
Or the SEC or Alabama or Ole Miss or any of those whiny bastards in the SEC. But yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I can't stand those guys down south, but I dig some Western Pennsylvania football. Those guys know what's up. Those fans know what's up. I don't think Steelers fans are annoying at all.
They travel everywhere and they're loyal as hell.
Yeah, they're like the antithesis to the Philly fans for me. I hate Philly fans. I think they're super annoying.
Yeah,
I love Pittsburgh fans.
And I think they're fair-weathered sailors. I don't think Pittsburgh is. Pittsburgh shows up. They have bars in every freaking town in this country.
Pittsburgh's also been good forever.
Yeah.
Like they've never had, I'm sure they have at some point had like a down time in their franchise history. Not in my life.
They did right before, like at the end of Knoll, right before Cowher, where like Bubby Brister was the quarterback and Mark Malone, and like they had those guys in the 80s, and they just weren't the same team. But yeah, when you're dependent on Bubby Brister to win games, but even then they weren't like 3-13. Like, yeah, that's the thing.
And like I was born in 93, so I've only ever known the Steelers post that, but like,
yeah, Cowher. Cowher was showed up same time as Denny, I think 91.
Yeah, so like they went to the Super Bowl in 95. They were good all the way through the 90s. They were really good in the 2000s. They won in 05, beat my Colts. And then, I mean, they've always been good. Like I don't know a world where the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't been good.
Tomlin again, it's right back to Tomlin. Hasn't had a losing season in 17 years. They've had 3 coaches since 1970 or 65 or whatever the hell it is. 3 coaches.
Are they? We're just kind of rambling here. I know we're off structure.
We'll get to the eliminator in a second. But, you and I are just kicking it around.
Are they the best run franchise in professional sports?
I don't know if they're the best run, but they are the most consistent. They know who they are and they don't compromise.
I cannot, outside of the New York Yankees, I can't think of another franchise in any sport that has had the consistency, the excellence, and the reliability as the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You have to fall in line there, and if you don't, the program is greater than you. The whole is always greater than the sum of the parts. And as soon as you become one of these guys that thinks they're bigger than that, they get rid of you. Doesn't matter who you are and what you've done. Plexico Burress, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. The list goes on and on and on. As soon as you become a pain in the ass, out you go. They go get somebody else.
Yeah, and I think I just respect that because look, the Yankees are the same way, right? For years it was, you'll have no facial hair other than a mustache. You'll have your hair trimmed. You're going to look like a New York Yankee, which can be a pain in the ass for some guys, right? But like there's structure there. There's expectation there. There's a legacy there that you have to uphold. There's like, I cannot think of, like, the Dallas Cowboys have had good years, but they've had a lot of really bad years too.
Yeah. The bad coaches.
The Patriots were really good for the first 20 years of my life. And they've been pretty bad the last couple because they're organizationally, they seem to have lost their identity a little bit. I mean, Green Bay is maybe the only other analog in football. I think
Green Bay's it. You're right. It's Pittsburgh and Green Bay. That's it.
I mean, they're the 2 best run organizations in football, bar none.
I completely agree. It's not close. They're the 2 best. There's a whole bunch of really good franchises who are fairly consistent, and you could throw them in there. Philly, Kansas City's obviously really good, but Kansas City had some lean years too. But they're well run. It's a good organization.
I remember 2008 when they were rolling Tyler Thigpen out there.
Herm Edwards and Todd Haley, like they were doing the let's just get this coach because it'll be, we'll get the hot coordinator or we'll do the retread coach. It's really when they found Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Like, and Dick Vermeil he stabilized things for a little while. It was good to have him there. Like, he did some good things while he was there. And Schottenheimer obviously had the great run, but it really wasn't. Andy Reid was the difference. Like, a real coach showed up.
I love Dick Vermeil. I know he's not like going to top anybody's list of the greatest coach of all time, but he's such a good coach.
He's your guy. He is your guy. Like, you cry with him. Like, it's emotional.
Yeah, I like Dick Vermeil.
All right. We kind of rambled around a little bit, but I like it. I like when we can talk football, Rhino. It was good.
Yeah.
Let's do the eliminator. Let's eliminate a team on behalf of Zach and you and me. Every week we eliminate a team, and I think we're in deep trouble. Like, the Colts are there. The Colts have to win this week. Have to win this week. No ifs, ands, or buts. If they lose and Denver wins, it's over. Denver's going to get in the playoffs, and we'll lose the eliminator for the 5th year in a row. Which sucks.
Yeah.
But while we're at it, let's eliminate a team tonight.
Let's run through who have we eliminated.
Let's go through that again. We've got New York Giants, Denver Broncos, Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee, Carolina, New England, Cleveland, New Orleans, Las Vegas, the Jets, the Bears, the Bengals. 1, 2, and Dallas. So
didn't we eliminate the 49ers last week?
We did not eliminate the 49ers last week. We eliminated the Bengals.
Probably good we didn't because they looked good this week. I mean, my nominee this week is going to be in that division, though. I'm going to put up the Arizona Cardinals because I think now they're officially mathematically I think Kornacki had them at 4% last night to get to the playoffs because they lost twice to Seattle. They're 2 back plus the tiebreaker to Seattle. So basically 3 back with 4 to go or whatever it is. And they have to hop Los Angeles and San Francisco. They went both of whom they play still.
Both of whom they play. So the odds are not in their favor to get to the playoffs.
I have a hard time eliminating them only because they have 2 games against teams they have to jump.
Okay. So who do you like?
So
because Miami won yesterday. Now, had Miami lost, I think Miami's the slam dunk.
I think, honestly, we're done in the AFC. I think the AFC is...
We got to let it ride until we know for sure.
Yeah. Have we eliminated Atlanta?
See, we can't eliminate Atlanta, though, because they're still in it. They still play Tampa one more time, don't they?
I think they do, but...
I get that they look washed, but Arizona's way worse. Arizona's in a worse place mathematically than Atlanta. Do you know what I mean? Like, one win, if the Bucs lose next week and the Falcons win, the Falcons are back in first place.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, if Penix was good, he'd be in right now, right? Like, if they believed in Penix, he'd be in the game.
I think you have to play Cousins just because of how much you're paying him.
True.
We need a third. I'm so lost on this because I know you can't eliminate Atlanta mathematically, but eye test, they look so bad. I just don't know.
I know what the eye test looks like, but I really have to play we got to play the numbers. We can't risk the Falcons sneaking in at 8-9 and being the division champion and us saying, we eliminated them weeks ago when they were still very much in it. I mean, Arizona, you acknowledge, is in way worse shape than Atlanta is. Because Arizona's lost 5 in a row. Or 4 in a row.
I will acknowledge that Arizona's in a bad spot. I don't think...
It doesn't matter if we think they're worse than Atlanta, too, though. I mean, it is still about who's still alive and who isn't.
Yeah. And now we're just kind of vamping. Because I don't know who to pick.
I know you're trying to get Zach to jump in here quick, but
yeah, we might not get him.
We may not get him.
I think if I'm okay with Arizona. I guess they're lower. They're below the Cowboys at this point. If the Cowboys win tonight,
and the Cowboys, and we've eliminated the Cowboys a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I mean Dallas's defense looks better, but man, they're just they're all bad.
You're right. You don't think we can go AFC?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Because the only 3 teams we have left in the AFC that we could eliminate are either in the playoffs or just below the playoffs, right? It's the Colts and the Dolphins. Because we've eliminated Cincy, Cleveland, Jacksonville, the Jets, the Titans, the Pats, and the Raiders.
Yep, and we've eliminated the Saints and the Panthers. We've eliminated the Bears. So it really, the Cardinals, the Niners, and that's really it. I mean, we can't really eliminate anybody else. I just think the Niners are better than the Cardinals. And if you're asking me I don't know if either of those teams make the playoffs, because I think that's kind of a one bid deal right now. It's winner take all in the division, and they're 2 back. But
and I like Atlanta's schedule going down the stretch too. They get Vegas and the Giants and the Commanders and the Panthers again. So 3-1 in that stretch, and you finish 9-8. That might be enough to win the division, but you don't have you have one division game to end the year, and you don't control your own destiny.
Yeah.
And the Bucs get the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Saints.
They get the Panthers and Saints are nice for them. So I think, and Baker, I just would give me Baker in the matchups there, because I think they'll get to that, but still.
And give me Baker over the Cowboys too. I just think that they're better than the Cowboys. And again, I think 3-1 in that stretch is good, and they already hold the tiebreaker. What do the Niners have left? The Rams, the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Cardinals. Dog, we might be talking about the wrong team.
But the Niners are, we acknowledge the Niners we think are better than the Cardinals.
I mean, they're more talented, but they're hurt. And they're not playing well. And right now they're below the Cardinals in the tiebreakers because they lost to the Cardinals earlier this year.
So they play the Cardinals. We know that.
If they split, I wonder who gets in. I think if they split, it's got to be, I think it's still Arizona, isn't it?
Because San Francisco, according to Kornacki last night, San Francisco had them at it's not like San Francisco was 50. They're like 20%, but he had Arizona at 4%. I don't see a way that they finish above 2-2 in this stretch. Arizona or San Fran?
San Francisco.
So you think they're 8-9 at best?
At best, and I don't think. I mean,
and if that's the case, all Seattle has to do is win 2 more games, and it's over. It's a wrap.
Right. Where I think that Arizona could beat the Rams because they beat the Rams earlier this year.
Yeah.
And they have the Patriots, the Panthers, the Rams, and the Niners. I mean, to me, that says that Arizona's got a better schedule. I think they're about a wash as far as team strength. I almost think we got to eliminate the Niners despite the win.
Well, you get the vote. You're the cast. You get to cast the vote without Zach here. So what do you want? Do you like the Niners? Do you want to eliminate the Niners?
Mathematically, yeah. I think I'm out on the Niners.
All right, Niners, San Francisco. Despite the big win yesterday, you have been eliminated. We will see you down the road. Arizona, for some reason, Ryan likes you, even though you have played like an absolute dog the last 4 weeks. And I'm talking like the water of a dog water. You've been terrible, but Ryan says you stay. And that's how this works on the podcast. All right, let's do power rankings, you and I. Let's knock this out. Who's your 5?
My 5 is the Bills.
They dropped because of the loss?
They dropped because of the loss. It's just so tight 1 through 5. I think all these teams are really good.
All these teams, everybody in the 5, as I said last week, could win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just think they're all really good. The teams in my 5 have not changed for 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna go the Bills here, and they're a really good team, but I have defensive questions.
I'm gonna go Pittsburgh at 5. I've kind of had them there for a while because I'm there. 10-3. They're legit. They're the best defense and the best special teams in the league. They have the best kicker. So
God,
I like them. They have to be in the 5.
Amazing.
He's made everything in a place that's not easy to kick.
Yeah.
The guy has made every kick. So give me Pittsburgh at 5. I'll go 4 and put Buffalo at 4. I like Buffalo, but you're right. Some of the flaws were revealed this week a little bit. Allen, though, is the one-man gang. Yep. He's still very hard to stop. He's going to be very hard to deal with. And as long as Allen is upright, they're in the game.
And we were talking about, the golden age of quarterbacks, a little bit. And the thing that none of them could do is run. He offers that as not like a Lamar Jackson, like he can break your ankles. Like he'll run through you.
Yeah, he'll hurt you.
He'll take your soul. right? Like he's coming for you.
He's the one man gang. He just is. He'll hit you with the old 747, and that's it.
Yeah. My number 4 team is the Philadelphia Eagles. You want to talk about taking souls? That running game's incredible.
Saquon's had a year. I mean, what a year for Saquon Barkley.
If Josh Allen didn't go Super Saiyan and level up this year, we'd be talking about Saquon Barkley as the first running back to win the MVP since Adrian Peterson.
I don't think you're wrong on that. I don't. But he's been great.
Taken the level of pressure that he's taken off of Hurts is notable.
It's made a big difference on Hurts, right? Because he doesn't look nearly as like stressed to the point where he has to do all the stuff. Right. He's not the guy who's got to make all the running plays and all the throws.
I mean, you ask any football guy, they'll tell you that a quarterback's best friend is their running game. And I haven't seen anything to disprove that in Philadelphia. Philly's
been really good. Yeah, I agree with you. I got Philly at 3 for all the reasons you mentioned. I think they're a problem and they're on fire. I mean, they were 2-2 to start the year and everything looked weird and everything looked like it hadn't been fixed or straightened out. But I think Kellen Moore is like, not that I want to give Kellen Moore all the praise, but Kellen Moore clearly has come in and like stabled the offensive ship a little bit and has said like, hey, just stop coaching with your giant schlong there, Nick Sirianni, and let me just make a smart call here every now and again. Let's make smart football plays, please.
You also wonder if he's the kind of guy that could get a look at that job if they decide that they want out on Sirianni's antics.
Sirianni's been a little calmer in recent weeks, so you do wonder if winning helps. That's number one.
Yeah,
winning helps, but also I think having he's finally got some grown-ups in there with him instead of a bunch of enablers and idiots.
Yeah, you don't have Dom, the security guy, out there. Yeah, I think that I like Kellen Moore a lot. I liked him as a head coaching option for a lot of teams.
Clearly the Dallas and then the Brandon Staley bit took some stock off of him, and so now he's had to kind of go and rebuild himself.
Fine, good. I think that's fine. Look, I think he got the raw end of the deal in Dallas. I don't think that was his fault. I think that you were just in a bad situation with a coach who was calling plays more than you were, and you kind of got screwed. And in LA, you kind of got stuck with a bad defense, and you had to go and throw a lot, and that really wasn't the game you want to play.
And you didn't. You had a head coach that was incompetent as hell, too.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
That doesn't help.
Yeah. Number 3, I've got the Minnesota Vikings. If they play like that every week, they're going to be really hard to beat. I think consistency is the name of the game right now. Consistency is what you're after. But right now, I'm beyond waiting for the other shoe to drop on Darnold.
I hear what you're saying, and he was great last Sunday. Credit where the credit is due. He was fantastic. Like I said, it was his best game as a professional. I have them as my first team out, so they're 6 to me. I still think they're in the mix. You can't say they can't go to the Super Bowl. I still believe that they can, but I still got the Jacksonville game, and I still got some of these mediocre games, the Jets, where he just wasn't very good. I still think, do I want to bet on Sam Darnold in a big spot? I'm not ready to do that yet. But, again, credit where the credit is due. He has done a great job. And they've done some great things.
I also think that they're playing to his strengths, and they're just kind of letting him have fun, which is kind of – that's been the MO that you hear from players about Kevin O'Connell's game, is he just kind of lets you go play football and calls his game, and he trusts you to do your job, trusts you to be a professional. And
can I just say what O'Connell needs to do better? Stand fucking still in the locker room in your post-game speech instead of pacing up and down the locker room in your post-game speech. As a speech coach, it drives me nuts. I'm like, will you just stand there? Stand still.
Well, he's got to address the whole room, Tim.
But get a goddamn microphone, but don't walk around like it's a goddamn Aaron Sorkin show. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
All right.
I just think that
as a speech coach, it drives you bananas.
It does, but I know he's not giving that kind of speech. I think that the renaissance that you see out of Sam Darnold, I heard this point. I think it was Ben Lieber made it on the Fan this morning, but it was a good one. The point that I think is important here is you're going to have teams that see what Minnesota's done, and like they did with Kirk Cousins, they're going to see and think, I can do that with him. I can do that. That's, we can recreate that here. And I don't think you can. I think that this is a situation where Minnesota has found a guy at head coach. And I think
you're definitely a little bit further ahead than I am on him, but he's been very good. I won't dispute that.
You go, what was it, 13-4 your first year? It never feels like they're out of a game. They're always in one-score games. Like, that's coaching. I don't
disagree. I don't disagree with that. I think he's a good coach. I'm not ready to go great coach. He has to win a playoff game. He has to go and beat somebody in a critical spot for me to talk about great coach. Like, I'm not there yet. Denny Green went to the playoffs 8 years in a row, didn't win any of them until 1997 or 7 years in a row. And I wasn't ready to call him a great coach until he had won a playoff. You got to win a playoff game. I'm just saying,
I think they found a guy, right?
I think he's a good coach, though.
So I'll put Minnesota at 3.
There are definitely worse coaches in the league than Kevin O'Connell. A lot worse. There's a lot of bad coaches in this league. A lot of guys who can't coach guys up. Number 2. My 3. Yep, my 3 was Philadelphia. Your 3 was Minnesota. My number 2 is Detroit. I'm concerned about the injuries a little bit, but they do keep winning. And Campbell is definitely, the one thing about him is that he's not different, right? He's just going to do what he does. And he's willing to live and die, I think, by those gambles. It paid off this week. It may not pay off down the road. But I have him at 2.
Yeah, I also have Detroit at 2. I know you got to be who you are. And, we used to have the Riverboat Ron meme with Ron Rivera in Carolina.
Yep.
Because he would go for it all the time too, right? He would buck analytics. He would. I just think that this is a little reminiscent to that for me, where eventually the luck runs out.
Yep.
Right. If you stay in the casino long enough, you're going to lose all your money.
Yep.
And that's Detroit to me. I think that you are playing with fire with your defensive injuries, going for it as often and in the positions that he does.
You're asking a lot. I agree. You are asking for all kinds of shenanigans to go.
Players will tell you we want to go for it, and I want you to trust us, but you got to be the leader in that room sometimes and say, no, guys, we can't this time. Like, sorry, like the games, we have to do this right now. There's a reason that you have a kicker on your team.
Yep. And a good one, a decent kicker.
Jake Bates is good. And I'm waiting for the day that they're in a tight game with implications that means a lot to them, that he makes that call and it goes wrong, because it will come. There will come a day where he gets burned.
Number 1 team for us, I have Kansas City. Listen, they're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. So we can sit here and kibitz about how they're winning, right? We can do that. That's okay. But they're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. So if you're going to go to the Super Bowl, you are going to have to go to Arrowhead and win, which is hard to do. And we're talking about one shot. And look, can Josh Allen go there and win? Sure. Absolutely he can. But it's hard to do that in January. It's really hard to go play in the cold. Now, Buffalo's suited to do it. A lot of the other teams in the AFC are not. Like, if you look at the AFC, Buffalo's really good. Pittsburgh's pretty good. After that, is there anybody there that you have faith in? Like, do you really think Baltimore can go to Kansas City and win in January in a playoff game? Houston, no. No chance on Houston, right?
No chance on Houston.
No chance on Houston. No chance on some of those other, like, kind of fringe teams, right?
Well,
There's
and the other teams.
Denver, no. Chargers, no.
Definitely not Miami.
Yeah, none. There's really, it's just, if it's not going to be Buffalo or Pittsburgh, it's nobody. And Kansas City's going to go to the Super Bowl.
I will say, I think they lose to Pittsburgh. I would in a January game anywhere, I would take Pittsburgh over them right now.
Yeah.
That defense is so good.
Yeah. But you do know that, so the road to the Super Bowl is through Kansas City in the AFC. It's just the way it goes.
Right.
So with that, they're the number 1 seed. Detroit at least still has to play because Minnesota keeps nipping, and there's one more game. So like Philly, if all Detroit's got to do is lose 2 games, and they could go from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Like so, but Kansas City's not in that position.
And
Kansas City's going to be the number 1 seed.
That's a team that I don't know if I mean, you want to talk about having to play outdoors. I mean,
they don't know. They got to play indoors. They cannot go to Philly for a game. They cannot do that. That's not what they're going to do.
They've got to play. I think they got to play outdoors 2 more times in the regular season here. They got to play, but they get Buffalo at home.
Yep. And Minnesota, they got Minnesota at home.
Yep.
So they've drawn 2 good ones there.
But you go to Chicago and San Francisco.
And Chicago stinks.
On the road.
They're catching Chicago at the perfect time, though. Their coaching, I mean, clearly firing Eberflus was the right move. But listen, they didn't find Vince Lombardi there. Let's be real clear. That it is a Keystone Cop routine in the coaching room right now at Chicago.
But weather can keep games close in Chicago. That's a bad field for a fast team.
I'm not betting on Chicago at all.
I'm not betting on Chicago either. I would say that their better chance for a loss is probably San Francisco there.
Yeah, probably. That could happen, especially if San Francisco still feels like they're playing for their lives.
Yep. I know we've eliminated them, but that doesn't mean they're officially eliminated. So,
well, and right now, that's not the pick that's going to beat us for the Super Bowl, for the eliminator. It's going to be Denver. Denver's going to be the one. If they beat Indianapolis this week, it's over.
Congratulations to Zach for moving ahead.
Zach is officially ahead on the weekend. So there you go. He's up for the weekend. Good job, Zach. Get home safely on the flight. That'll wrap up the football pod for us this week, everybody. Again, we'll save Dad Talk for when we get everybody back in the room, but we want to thank you for taking the time and hanging out with me and Ryan for an hour. And again, subscribe, like, leave a comment. We'd appreciate it. You can find us also on YouTube. Type in the Tim Anderson Podcast. You should be able to access previous shows. If not, you can definitely go and find us Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe. We would appreciate it. Until next time, for Ryan and Zach, who's not here, this is Tim saying keep your head up, and we'll see you.